lies off the city centre, shaped by nature, landscaped by men. This is Bukit Brown Cemetery. At rest are the country's forefathers, whose collective timelines span 150 years of our development into modern Singapore. Their tombstones are touchstones in living memory for a new generation of descendants. This is our history from the hills. The Second Sino-Japanese War marked some of the darkest days in China's 20th century history. News of the atrocities committed fueled the anger of the Chinese in Singapore. Funds were raised and supply trucks from Singapore to Yunnan were organized in a bid to keep the fight alive. Little did they know that the Japanese had already set their sights further south. The first bomb fell on Singapore on December 8, 1941. Panic surged across the island as the bombs fell relentlessly. Even the dead were not spared. Ong Lin, a retired teacher, recalls a story her father told her about the burial of her great-grandfather, Ong Keng Yet, during the Japanese invasion.
This is the grave of my great-grandfather, Ong Keng Yet. At the time of his burial, the Japanese were dropping bombs from Baba and his siblings. I gather that the grave was dug and the coffin was about to be put in. But before that could happen, the mourners had to jump in to hide from the dropping bombs of the Japanese. And then when everything was better, they would jump out and then he got laid in. And Baba would joke about it. After several years, he would say, you know, you can't be pantang. You can't be superstitious. You have to know that since grandfather loves you, nothing's going to happen, and that he would want you to save your life first. So that's the impression I have of the love from this man.
As wheeling sweeps clean the tomb linking her to her heritage, another part of Bukit Brown risks having its heritage swept away. Peter Park is the writer of a popular blog, Rojak Librarian. What started out as a memo on nature quickly evolved into a Bukit Brown heritage blog.
What I hope to achieve is cemeteries are just not about the dead and the dead have no voice. I hope that what I write about can be voices for these people who are buried here, and also to be some sort of lessons where we can learn from people who have contributed when they were alive to Singapore. So it's in a sense not just about a blog about history, but it's also a blog about stories. Okay, so this used to be the tombs of Mr. Tan Hak Wan and his daughter Ruby Tan. So you can see the pack number 1061 and in blue E. So Tan Hak Wan was recently exhumed.
Tan Hak Wan was the grandson of Tan Kiam Hock, municipal commissioner and the man after which the road outside Bukit Brown Cemetery is named. Tan Hak Wan, a beneficiary of his grandfather's wealth, had one of the most lavish wedding ceremonies ever held in Singapore.
The wedding itself was fascinating because if you research in the newspaper, it was the bride, Miss Lim Chin Chu, had $100,000 worth of jewelry on her. And of course, you just can't walk in the streets with $100,000 worth of jewelry in 1937. In that picture, she had 6 policemen guarding her and Mr. Tan Hak Wan in that wedding. So it goes to show to you how interesting some of these records are.
Peter's research into Tan Hak Wan's life tells us that he had played an active role during the war. In spite of his privileged upbringing, he chose to volunteer for the Straits Settlement Volunteer Force and step forth to serve his country.
He served for Singapore in its darkest hour. So just imagine just before the fall of Singapore with bombs falling on Singapore city itself. I could imagine Sultan Hak saving lives of people in dire straits. So, and as a result, when Singapore fell, he became a prisoner of war. And I researched and don't know the reason why he died or what caused his death, but he eventually died on 31st May 1943.
Buried alongside Tan Hock Wan was his infant daughter, Ruby, who died at the age of 6 months during the war. Affected by plans for the future highway, both graves were exhumed recently by their descendants. With further exhumations in the pipeline, it's a race towards the deadline for Peter to uncover more tombs.
So the impending road is going to cut across Bukit Brown. There are many, many stories which will be gone forever, lost forever. For a new visitor to Bukit Brown, you will not even spend a single glance at these two pets behind you, because there's no tombs anymore to tell the story for them. So I was glad that at least I managed to document some of Mr. Hak Wan's stories and Ruby's story before it's totally gone.
While Peter races against time for information to feed his audience online, another man captures the attention of an audience face to face.
We live in a special time where the veterans of World War II are dying off. If you want to talk to these boys, you better talk to them soon. For the generations ahead, for the kids here, when they get interested in doing research about World War II, that source of information is gone. It's up to us to try and capture it for the next generations.
John Cooper is a war archaeologist based in Singapore. He conducts tours at various war sites across the islands, and today he leads a group to Bukit Brown.
Hellfire Corner is the unofficial name given by the British troops to the Lorney Road, Sime Road, Adam Road crossroads, and it's now marked with this traffic lights. The British troops called it Hellfire because when you look at the topography of it, it actually sits high up on the hill, and it can be seen from Bukit Timah, and most notably it can be seen by anybody flying over in an airplane, and it's literally X marks the spots. Because of that, any Allied activity, any trucks, any tanks, any troops making their way across the corner, across the crossroad, could be spotted. Now the key date is the 15th of February, because by the afternoon, that was the surrender day. So we find that the Adam Road, Lorney Road, is the last stop line that Percival put out, the last ring of defence around Singapore City. So suddenly, Bukit Brown becomes a significant site. This is the final stop line. Its reservoir is just over there. If I can drive my tanks, drive my infantry through Bukit Brown, then I can get to Thompson. And I can go up the Lorney Road and get to Thompson quick, cut off the water supply. Well, it's not an ordinary hill. It's psychologically, it's a little bit weird. It's a cemetery. You see in the diaries for the Japanese that they started off by thinking, should we actually attack the cemetery? Because of ghosts and things like that, bad omens for them. But then they got into it and said, oh no, we'll carry on. Imagine what the Suffolk lads are thinking. They're up here in this cemetery, the place is filled with dead. Are they going to be dead next? Now listen. This is weird environment. They're not used to this in Suffolk. All these insects, all these snakes that are running around here, all the big ants and everything. Scary. What makes matters even worse is they're among ghosts. They've been put into a graveyard, for goodness sake. And boys used to literally disappear. They'd disappear off in that direction, they'd be wounded, and they were never seen again. And they'd go officially missing. So all the Suffolk lads who you see on the wall at Cranji, who died on the 15th, check them out, because they're probably knocking around here somewhere. See what we can find. I just think it's a perfect site because it's on the crossroads.
John has long suspected that fatalities at the battleground may have been hastily buried at mass graves in Bukit Brown. But to bring these Suffolk lads home, he would need to enlist the help of an expert.
Next on Octo's Animal Night.